So, in the last video, the video about essences, the deities of this world, I mentioned the THAKKOHI people and the land of Thakkoh. That video I'll have a link in the top right corner. If you want to watch it, it is a good video. So, the Thakkoh and the THAKKOHI people. And dragons, I hear you ask. Yes, I'm sure you saw that in the title or in the thumbnail. So, what do these have in common? Well, these were actually one of the first things that I've world built, and I haven't touched them much recently, but they're very interesting for similar reasons as the oak, so I hope you enjoyed those as well. These are presumed the oldest and most universal creatures of Surat. And this is because they come from the center of Surat on the huge landmass known as Thakkoh, Thakkoh if you were wanting the spelling. And the people that live there are the THAKKOHI. I haven't talked much about the Great Curses, that will be a video coming up soon, but they were cursed with the terrible curse that they would never be able to craft things of their own without perfect instructions, which basically means they can never build things of their own and they cannot improvise building things. But they were blessed with incredibly fast evolutionary capabilities. Within the generation, an individual generally can evolve to about halfway that it needs to for a specific goal. So a family of 2 or 3 generations, so your grandparents would be stem THAKKOHI, basically stem cells if you think of it in a biological term, the most basic generalized form, which looks a bit like an orc, humanoid, very pale skin, like on the inside of the palms and so on, but almost black-green skin on the outside. This is because they partially photosynthesize. It's not where they get most of their energy from, but they can evolve photosynthesis. And, for example, if your tribe of people had no food and there was a long drought forecasted, then your children would be born with paler green skin and maybe a large membrane between their arms so they can lie down and photosynthesize. Within 3 generations they can almost become completely different species. If you wanted wings, those are much more complicated and require a bit of testing, trial and error, so that might take 5 or 6 generations, but it's still practical. This meant that the THAKKOHI people were feared for quite a while as incredible martial and military force, because if there was a specific role which nobody could fill, the THAKKOHI could fill it, if you gave them long enough time. So if a war was dragging on too long and they were involved with it, they would become the perfect antagonist. So wars against the THAKKOHI generally don't happen because you don't want to attack them. They're actually quite powerful, but if you do, get it over with within a generation, otherwise you're not gonna win. So, what are you asking? Oh, what are some common traits for THAKKOHI? Well, the green skin is quite common, and they do travel around the world, so you can find them in like icy tundras, you can find them in the UTR, you can find them in the Archipelago, you can find them all around the world. But the most common ones are probably like fruit picking THAKKOHI, and some which are a little bit different. They're the plow THAKKOHI. The plow THAKKOHI, they're very short, they have thick, very thickly built, very strong, sturdy, long, kind of tree trunk-like legs with like long claws so they can dig into the ground, and a tail with kind of a large bone protrusion on the end, kind of like a dinosaur's horn or something, which is then used for ploughing. The THAKKOHI can plant things and naturally grow things, but they cannot build things. And then the pickers are just very tall, often up to 12 foot tall, and they have multiple pairs of arms. THAKKOHI, you'll often find, will gain multiple limbs, and 6 limbs is actually quite common for THAKKOHI. It seems to be some sort of hidden genetic thing that they can get 6 limbs very quickly, and then getting more or less takes a bit of time. But the pickers often have 6 different pairs of limbs, so 12 arms at the most, and some have also multiple pairs of legs for stability. A couple of them have long claws so that they can climb very thick trees, which brings me on to the second thing. The THAKKOHI trees they only grow on the very edges of Thakkoh, and in the exact center there are a couple like oases there in the shadows of the towers that are not kind of just melted by the sun. There the trees grow kind of like American redwoods, just any tree planted there, especially the master trunk, which is a type of tree, very dark wood with very light, whitish almost petals, almost translucent. They can grow kilometers tall, and they have fruit which normally hangs quite low down, but some specimens of tree that grow there, you need to climb up hundreds of meters before you get to the fruit. It's a very difficult place to live in, but the THAKKOHI have found that working abroad, or at least migrating, is very, very good for them. And in the campaign, their characters, minor spoilers here if you're following incredibly thoroughly through it, and props to you if you are, they meet a couple along the way. I'm not going to give too many spoilers, and they are basically everywhere. They're very rare almost, but it's not an astounding sight to see one. It's not like the Elensi, like the elemental people. The THAKKOHI, you might find a barman or a barmaid who has maybe 2 sets of arms or something, so that they can carry trays better, or a window cleaner who's got almost like gecko-like suction on his hands that you can just climb up sheer surfaces. These creatures adapt incredibly quickly and incredibly niche-wise, and approximately every 4th generation is a stem THAKKOHI, which means they lose all of their family's traits and abilities and so on, and just become this plain THAKKOHI, about human height, maybe a little taller, averaging 6 foot, 6'2", where they have dark black-green skin on the tops of their arms and their skin, and then on the insides, not insides, their palms and their inside of their forearm is then almost white. So this is the basic THAKKOHI. If you have some sort of special race like the Aarakocra, then if you want to be in this world, you could probably find a THAKKOHI substitute for it, as long as you find a good enough reason that they would invest time and evolutionary energy into becoming these. But enough about the THAKKOHI people. Now about the dragons. There are 2 main clades or groups of dragons. There are the Eos worshipping dragons. They don't strictly need to worship Eos, but they generally do. These are the metallic and chromatic dragons, very similar to D&D lore dragons. But then there are the THAKKOHI, or the stem dragons. A stem dragon, if it grew up without any influence of anything else around it, if it was in a total vacuum, without even the presence of vacuum, if it was in nothing, and wasn't affected by the nothing, then you would see this white, completely almost clear dragon in the most generic form possible. But if this dragon, when it hatches, is near anything or is influenced by anything, it turns into a dragon of that type. And there are 5 different categories for these dragons. There are the metallic chromatic, they're combined into one, the Eos worshipping dragons, but then there's also natural, unnatural, hybrids, and other dragons. Other dragons, again, is a catch-all term for things like psionics, ghost dragons, undead dragons, that don't really fit into any of the categories neatly. The most common types of natural dragons are tree dragons. Again, there's more variation in that. For example, oak dragons, bark dragons, root dragons, leaf dragons, stone dragons, water dragons. You even get magma dragons, and those can be split down into like obsidian dragons, lava dragons, ash dragons. There's hundreds of types. In fact, theoretically infinite number of types. And then there's the unnatural dragons, which have been like cultivated or captured by humans and therefore almost influenced to be what the humans or the Thakkohi or the humanoids or the Oakun, it really depends, what they wanted. The most common is glass dragons. Strangely, they seem to be really intrigued by glass and clarity and purity and so on. So you get the pure glass dragons, mosaic dragons, which are often found in churches and so on. And then the shattered dragon, which is often a very vengeful creature, and possibly even an undead pure glass or mosaic dragon. Then you get the military sort of offshoots of the dragons, which are the poison dragons, weapon dragons, and armor dragons. The armor dragons, you get plate mail dragons, chain mail dragons, shield dragons. You get, for weapons, you get swords, daggers, maces, quarterstaffs, basically any weapon you can think of as a dragon. For example, the sword dragon, its scales would be fully formed steel blades, which could be very useful in an army, and also very useful for the enemy if they kill it, because they now have about 1 million swords. But you also get the more kind-natured, less warlike dragons, the cloth dragons, the common variant of these. There's hundreds more. You'll get brick dragons and whatnot, but cloth dragons are often ribbon dragons or clothing dragons. These will often not grow as large. All dragons can grow to the size of like a small building, but cloth dragons generally only grow to be the size of maybe a large dog, and can be kept as pets. Then you also get the hybrid dragons, which are dragons influenced by other creatures. So you get the terrifying like insect dragons, which are often spiders, beetles, mosquito dragons, and these are like horrifying. Then you get the mammal dragons. You get even humanoid dragons, which is a very interesting concept. It's if you have from a scale of human to dragon, you'll have dragonborn being 1/3 closer to human, and then the dragon humans, these affected dragons, they'll probably be closer to the dragon side, so maybe have huge draconic wings, completely covered in scales, still being able to breathe fire and so on, but only have like 2 pairs of limbs and walk upright and so on. You also get like cat dragons, and then things that aren't like strictly speaking living, so you'll get bone dragons and blood dragons as well. There's reptile dragons, which sounds a bit strange, but there's the snake dragon, which is kind of inspired by the Chinese dragons. You'll get geckos, crocodiles, various fish, various birds and so on. And then you get some like special metallic dragons, which are not in D&D. You get like sodium, electrum, aluminium, titanium and so on. There's a huge list, and if you want a more comprehensive list of dragons, put that in the comments. I'll always make a video to your requests. At the moment I am struggling a little bit for ideas, but there's always more to cover. And then there are a couple like special other ones. These are the principality dragons. These are considered other dragons. Death, life, power, energy, light, darkness, and void dragons. And then the elemental mega dragons. These are called the mega dragons because, like megafauna, they grow, or megaflora, they grow to much larger sizes. They're already born from an egg at the size of like a small elephant, or a large elephant even in some cases, and then can grow to be, the largest of which can grow to be the size of small hills or even mountains. So these elemental dragons are split into fire, air, water, lightning, earth, plants, void, and time dragons. And the greatest dragon is the Dragon Lord Au, EU for spelling. Au is a dragon formed kind of Voltron style when the all of the elemental mega dragons combined. If they all are killed and then are fused together, or if the dragons participate in some sort of magic ritual, they can combine themselves to become Au. Au is believed by dragon people or dragon kin to be it's basically their patron deity. They believe he created everything, and that these dragons slowly became the THAKKOHI people, and the THAKKOHI people then became all of the other races. This may or may not be accurate. That is up to you to tell in your lore. Almost everything is considered true in various places, and a solid truth I will not give you here. But yes, Au is a very powerful dragon. He is actually one of the few creatures capable of making new rings in the Great Chain, the chain of worlds together. I explained this in the video about housing, that the world, again, I'll put a link to it somewhere, and that the worlds are all donut shaped, so they are often linked together in a chain formation. He is powerful enough to create chain links, but ages and ages ago, eons ago, he was destroyed and split into the elemental mega dragons. They only ever have one child, and when the child is born, the elemental mega dragon dies and is effectively reincarnated as its child. So, I think that is everything you need to know about all dragon-related and THAKKOHI related things that I can think of at this moment. I hope you enjoyed this video. It turned out a lot longer than I was expecting, and I am glad that you have managed to make it all the way through till here. Bye. See you next time.